Lifestyle with Lorianne. I am Coach Lorianne. I know, shocking. America's #1 Take Action Success Coach and strategist, empowering, educating, inspiring, and igniting people just like you to take action with jet propulsion. We assist people to find and embrace their life, live to their highest vision, become the next best version of yourself, and step into the power that you already have. So we love to talk to a variety of people here on Healthy Lifestyle to bring little bit of understanding of what all these different people do out there and all this yumminess that's out there that's at your fingertips to help you be successful and step into the power of you. So today I'm very excited to have our guest because Xanet Pailet, I probably said her name wrong, but we're going to correct that in a minute. She is our guest, and we are going to speak about shame, money, and sex. Yes, I said it. Shame, money, and success, and the silent blocks holding women back as a result. So stay tuned. You need to stay and listen to this episode. So let me tell you a little bit about our guest today. Xanet is a nationally recognized sex and intimacy coach. She's a best-selling author of Living an Orgasmic Life and the founder of Passionate Intimacy Retreats. Let me go back to the book. It's called Living an Orgasmic Life. Look for it. It's on Amazon, where she has led over 100 couples in intimacy retreats. And after leaving a 26-year sexless marriage and a high-powered legal career, Xanet now helps committed couples who feel stuck, disconnected, or in conflict transform their relationships into ones filled with intimacy, safety, passion, and, oh, my favorite word, joy. Through private and international group retreats, she shows couples how to create emotional and sexual connections that last. And if you're ever wondering what it takes to truly reignite your relationship and keep the flame alive, this is a conversation you really don't want to miss because Xanet is wonderful. Xanet, welcome to the show. And how badly did I mangle your last name?
You did great, Lorianne. It was awesome. It's Xanet Pailet, but you were very, very close. And thank you so much for having me. And I love to have an opportunity to talk about this area around improving your sex life and how it impacts so many areas of other areas of your life.
Oh, yeah. It's so important and we minimize it and we make it shameful and there's nothing shameful about it. Relationships are important and how we connect. Connection is what I'm all about. 2026 is connection for me. So connection is so very important. So I need to backtrack a little bit because in my intro for you, I had indicated that you used to be a high-powered attorney and did all these things. So how did you transition from that to this? Because we often end up teaching people what we've already experienced in our life. Shocking.
Yes, a wounded healer. That is so true. Yeah. So, well, yes, I haven't always been a sex and intimacy educator and coach. I was a healthcare attorney, and was basically in a corporate career for the first half, if you will, of my career. A little background, because I think it's helpful for people to understand,
Absolutely.
because, I lived in a sexless marriage for 26 years. I have 2 children, so it wasn't completely sexless, but it primarily was. And that unfortunately is not uncommon. There are so many couples that are living in sexless marriages. I actually think it's like at epidemic proportions at this point. Not a lot of people are talking about it.
Right.
Which is why it's so important that, I so appreciate you giving the platform to be able to have this conversation. And also, like, this sexist marriage didn't happen overnight. It actually started with my own stuff as a child. So many of our wounds start in childhood. And since we're talking about shame, the trauma that I experienced was actually being shamed around my sexuality as a young girl when I was like curious and young and wanted to explore in first grade. Which
What sparked you to jump from, doing healthcare, a healthcare attorney to this, it's a radical transformation between being an
it
attorney
is.
and being a coach that's helping couples have relationships.
I mean, it was my own experience of being in a sexless marriage, of feeling really broken around my sexuality, really disconnected from my body. When I turned 50, I'm 65 now, but when I turned 50,
God, you
I,
don't look a day over 35.
oh, I love you. I
You're
love I left that marriage, and I had to do a deep dive into like what my blocks were, because, I knew I wanted to be in another relationship, but I wasn't sure how I was going to actually be able to manage that. And that took me, Lori, and into my own sexual healing and awakening process, which initially was through the door of Tantra and sacred sexuality, but expanded fairly rapidly because, I'm a learner, I'm a lawyer, I want to learn everything. And so, of course, I took a million different certifications and trainings to understand the emotional issues around sex, the trauma. I'm a trauma practitioner as well, the trauma related
sure.
to sexuality, which is huge, especially for women. And ultimately, like, that became my passion, my calling. It's like, this is what I want to do. This is how I want to spend the rest of my professional career, really, helping women and couples when I wasn't able to find any type of resources or support when I was in my late
Yeah.
20s and early 30s and really, really struggling.
Yeah, so I know when I was walking through my transitions, I wish I had had a me, and that's what you're talking about. You're going to be there. You wish you had a you, and you were
Totally.
going through it. And having gone to law school myself, I understand. I love learning. So when you said you had all these certifications, and I said, "Oh God," it was because I know I have a wall full of "I love me" certifications, which are all great and fun because. You want to gain as much knowledge to help as many people as possible, and now you have all these vast tools at your disposal, as do I. So why do so many long-term couples struggle with intimacy? And how does one begin to reconnect? Because so many times I talk to couples and they do want to reconnect. They just don't know how to start, and it's awkward and it's uncomfortable. So walk us through that.
Yeah, I think that, there's two foundational elements. The first one is communication, or I should say lack of communication, right? So many couples struggle with not really feeling that they can communicate with each other, especially around this topic, because there's so much shame around it, there's blame around it, there's awkwardness around it. So poor communication is a key element. But underlying that poor communication, which I think is really, like, for me, the first thing that I work with always with any couple, is making sure, and usually it's restoring the emotional connection, the emotional intimacy, the emotional safety that couples are generally lacking, because you're in a long-term relationship and things start to happen and you get into conflicts, but you don't have the skills to repair it. And then this little cut on your finger ends up becoming a big blistering wound where resentments keep on building up more and more and more and more. And I think that's why so many relationships start having problems, and their sex life starts to falter as well.
Yeah, 100%. And it's funny because you said, and the name of this is, sex and money, right? So why? You said those are the two topics couples fight about the most, or is that
Yes.
is that like what you think? And why do you think these two areas carry so much shame and secrecy? And there's so much shame and secrecy in that.
Yeah, I think, I think I always say this, it goes back to our childhood, right? I think that we both have been, we've developed both a sexual blueprint around an intimacy blueprint upon how sex and intimacy was modeled as childhood. And we also have our own money blueprint as well, around how money and finances were also modeled to us in childhood, right? And, like, if you grew up like I did, in a single family, household, with in a very, I would say, at best, middle class, community, where your mother went to the temple bazaar, if you will, right, to get your clothes and things, right? There's a way in which I learned about scarcity,
Right.
right, which made it much harder for me to be able to absolutely embrace the abundance and prosperity in my life, right? And so I think that's where the money piece comes in, and the same thing with sexuality.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of times those models, it's because you've never been exposed to it, you don't know that it's a possibility. But those models are thoughts we think. It's almost like a belief. Those models are things we think over and over and over again, and it becomes a belief. And that's because we do things that we know, and that's all we know. So of course that's what we do. It's not a failing, it's not something that diminishes us. It just is. And that's how we were brought up. So it's really exciting when you get in. So people like you and I who are incredibly curious, like at a point where it's probably obnoxious to other people. All right, I know it's obnoxious to other people, but whatever. It is who I am, right? So we like to learn about other cultures and other people and when we learn that, we're like, oh, wait, that isn't the only choice. And when you start looking out beyond yourself, you can see there are lots of choices out there. And is that what you're bringing to these couples? So take us through like an example without using names, an example of like a couple that came to you and then the transition that occurred as a result of the work you did, and then what the result was. I love
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So most couples come to see me because generally they're either in a sexless marriage, which we define as having sex less than 10 times a year, or they're really struggling around their sex life. There's mismatched desires. Very, very often and more frequently, there's betrayals and infidelity. And so let me talk about like a couple. I'll just make up a name, Mark and Jennifer, who came to see me recently. And they had experienced a fair amount or some amount of betrayals in their relationship, in their marriage, which was very, very challenging for one of the partners. In this case, it was the husband who was not faithful. And, but in any type of situation like this, right, without casting blame or shame, we always want to look at, well, what caused it? What were the factors before this betrayal happened that each of them felt so alone and lonely in the relationship, right? And of
it.
course, it goes back, 30 years, right? Because the patterns that are formed very, very early on in the relationship. Whatever pattern you have is formed very early on, and then you just continue to repeat it and repeat it and repeat it and repeat it, right?
Hence pattern.
Yes, hence a pattern.
Hence a pattern.
Hence a pattern every single night. And so ultimately, and it was it was painful, and often sometimes there was a lot of emotion involved in coaching this couple and helping them be able to really be vulnerable with each other and explore and express how lonely they were before the betrayal happened, right? And bringing them back into some level of emotional safety and emotional connection where they felt they could start to express feelings rather than, and you will relate to this, litigate the facts, right? Which is what we often do in conflicts. We're litigating the facts. We're arguing our
because we have to prove we're right.
We have to prove our right, and we have our coping and defense mechanisms as well, because we don't want to cause our partner pain or feel like we've done something wrong. And that never, ever resolves a conflict, right? And so when they learned that they could start to talk about their feelings rather than the facts and be empathetic for each other, oh, that completely changes it, because now I get a sense of what it's like to be in my partner's shoes, right? And it softens you. And when you're softened, everybody can open up a little bit more and feel like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, you don't have conversations like that's not what I said. That's not what I meant. No,
Exactly.
it's not even
Exactly.
about that. It's about way more than that. It's bigger than that particular incident. That particular incident might have kicked it off, but it wasn't about, that incident that they focus hyperly on because it's safe.
Yes. Yeah.
Having
Well,
that conversation is safer than having the actual conversation you really
that's
need
right.
to have.
That's right.
So that's
Exactly.
where you come in. You come in to help coach people through that conversation, make it safe, give them allowances, and help guide them. Because, how do you do that by yourself? with two people.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, I can't even do it with my partner, right?
Yeah.
Like we have our own therapist coach to help us when we get in conflict, because it's very hard, even with all the skills that I have and he's learning, for us to get through. You can't see the forest for the trees when
No.
you're, in the middle of it.
Yeah, and I say this all the time. You can't read the label from the inside of the bottle. So yeah, you
Cannot.
need help from the outside. So
Right,
so
exactly.
having that coach available, having somebody help walk alongside you while you're doing it does make it better. But the good news is, and I want to really focus on the good news of shame, sex, and money, is that there are alternatives to just splitting up. There are alternatives. You can do something about it. And yes, it will
Absolutely.
be work, and yes, it may be painful. Most likely it will be, because in order to get to the bottom of something, you have to dig.
Yeah,
And you
you
have
have
to
to
go
dig deep.
back through it again, and you have to feel those feelings again, and you have to, go through it, and you just can't move on. And I know, and I just know this from experience and from coaching men, is that, they have a propensity to say, it was done, and they move on, but it doesn't leave them. It's
No,
still part of them, and it's still, they're waiting for it. It's like anticipating the same thing happening over and over again, hence a pattern. And if we don't break those patterns, how are we going to change the pattern? Like, what
yeah,
would make us go in a different direction? Talking from a different direction is what would change that pattern? Well, we have to change what we're doing. We have to change how we're speaking to one another and
that's
how
right.
we're relating to one another. And that's what you do with them. Yes?
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes, I like to talk about like 3 steps in changing that pattern. The first step is, first of all, let's notice we're in our pattern. Like I
Right.
literally have couples say, uh-oh, here we are, we're doing it again, right?
Yeah.
And then, the second piece around that is sort of identifying, how bad it feels. Like, oh, we're in this pattern and it sucks. And we're both really hurting and we don't know what to do and we're stuck.
Yeah.
Right. And then the third piece is like, and I'm feeling really sad, or I'm feeling really lonely, or I'm feeling really frustrated, right? To really start to get to what you've identified it, and I call it the conversation under the conversation, what the emotional conversation is that's causing the fact that we're in this pattern. And that in alone is starting to change the pattern and doing something different, changing the behavior and the emotional context related to it.
Understood. What does it look like to work with you?
What it looks like to work with me, are you talking about like what a retreat looks like, or just what it looks like?
Well, do you only do retreats, or do you also have
Oh,
couple
okay.
therapy and
So yeah, so my retreats are individual private one-on-one retreats. So I do private 4 to 5 day intensive retreats in Asheville, North Carolina, with one couple at a time. That's
oh, you're not far from me.
yeah, you're in South Carolina,
I'm in
right?
Salem, South Carolina. You're an hour away. We need
Oh
to have
well,
lunch.
well,
Oh,
let's
sorry.
definitely do that.
I digress.
Okay. But so they're working with me one-on-one individually. And it's, everybody is just like with any other coach. Everybody's coaching experience is totally different depending upon what issues that they're coming in with, right? And then I do once a year, I do an international group retreat for couples that are in a good place. So basically, they cannot be in like a sexless marriage in order to come to my group retreat, because I don't have the time to be able to coach them through all of the emotional pieces that are
Right.
related to that, right? So but yeah, it's a very interesting experience. It's a very intimate experience. It's also very experiential, because I believe that you can't talk your way into a better relationship and better sex. You have to have an embodied, felt sense of what that's like.
Right.
And so all of my work is very somatic and interactive, even with respect to, especially I would say, with respect to even the emotional piece of it, of taking them through exercises around empathy, where they're really feeling what it's like to be in their partner's shoes. And what does it feel like in your body when you tell your partner you're feeling sad, right? Like getting people to have a better sense of that. And then, in the ideal world, depending upon what they're working on, we'll also start to move into the physical intimacy piece as well. So, this becomes like a playground, where there's a whole ability for them to explore different types of sexual styles in a very safe, boundaried space.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I can just see that, the growth potential is amazing and the commitment, when you make that time commitment, you go someplace else and you're taken out of your everyday element. When we come back, because we're going to go to break, but when we come back, I want to talk about like how after the retreat, how do they infuse it back in every day? Because that's when I do retreats. I have follow up after my retreats because I found out aftercare is just as important because we get back in around the same well-intentioned family and friends and the same business propositions and the same schedules, and we fall easily back into those same patterns. So we're going to take a short break. You're listening to Healthy Lifestyle with Lorianne. I am Coach Lorianne. We're here today with Xanet Pailet. Got it right that time. And they can find you where on what website?
You can go to howtoimprovemylovelife.com, howtoimprovemylovelife.com, where you will get a beautiful free gift, which is 7 3-minute short videos about very specific tools and skills that you can use to improve your love life.
Oh my goodness, everybody needs to go right now. And those links will be with this episode as well. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Healthy Lifestyle with Lorianne. I am Coach Lorianne. If you would like to be a guest or lift up your business, product, or not-for-profit, you've heard this before, or if you have questions or comments, please reach out to us and we'd love to hear from you at healthylifestylewithla@gmail.com. That's healthylifestylewithla. That's me at gmail.com. We love hearing from you, and these beautiful guests that we have most of the time are a result of each and every one of you. So thanks so much for doing that. In the meantime, I want to get back into this sexy, wonderful conversation about shame, sex, and money, with Xanet Pailet. And she's apparently my neighbor because she's in Asheville, North Carolina. You can follow her or get information from her. And she has this beautiful gift for you on her website if you go to it. I understand, little birdie told me at our break that perhaps there may be a book coming out that you could pre-buy.
That is true. So I have basically codified all of the work that I've done with couples around sex and intimacy and repair in this new book that is called The Sex and Intimacy Repair Kit: How to Enhance Communication and Create a Lifetime of Passionate Intimacy. And you can pre-order that now on Amazon.
Link will be with this episode, so click on that, pre-order it. It's coming out in March, and that's really exciting. And that's the short title, right?
The Sex and Intimacy Repair Kit. I fought with my publisher about that.
Yeah, seriously, wow, that was a mouthful. I was like, and she's still going. It's great, but no, that's wonderful that you can have that. It's real important to have that kind of support and have that access, but even more important to have somebody to walk alongside and ask the questions to. So I love support kits. I love support books and things like that. But just remember, reaching out to you, Xanet, I think is an important element to walk alongside this. So I think it's a dual action too. So if you're so inclined, read the book, hear the insight, and then reach out to Xanet would be my recommendation if I were to make one. Oh wait, I just did. So back to what we were talking about. So we're on a retreat. It's a couples retreat. Individual couples, you really work alongside them, and they're really almost in an isolated scenario at this retreat, even though there are other people around, but they're not in their day-to-day life. And so when we left off, we were talking about, integrating post retreat back into the air quotes real world. So what does that look like, and how do you support them, and how does that work? Because it always is great on vacation, but then you come back and, all the stuff, you got to go to the dentist, you have to, meet these requirements at work, blah, blah, family, friends get involved. Yikes. So how do you do it?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a very common experience that couples have, that anybody has, right? When you go on a transformational retreat and you have a lot of expansion, there's always contraction that follows it, right? And we see that, I see that in my couples when they get back to their real life.
Yeah.
But what I have learned over the last couple of years, I've been doing these retreats here in Asheville for the last 5 years. What I've learned is that what helps them be really successful is to continue to work with me when they get home. So I typically see people for 6 to 12 sessions after they get home. And it's really important because it's super easy for them to get back into their patterns. I mean, just for everybody, right?
That's normal though. That's just normal.
Totally.
Breaking habits, which are patterns, right? Breaking habits are not easy, and you have to replace them with a better pattern.
That's
And
right.
that's what you're doing. You're replacing old habits with good, better habits, better choices. And the beginning with the breaking habits is awareness.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
you speak to that is being aware that, uh-oh, we're back in that pattern, we're back in that cycle. That awareness is empowering because once you're aware, you can stop it on the spot if you want to. You don't have to, but if you want to, you can. And then all these amazing choices fall out in front of you. You may not like all of them, but there are choices. So,
And I think also, like, because there's so much stuff that we talk about and so many skills that I teach them at a retreat, like they tend to forget, something that we've learned, right? So it's important to have like a reminder, like, hey guys, remember that we did this exercise,
yeah.
on attunement or repair. This would be a good opportunity for us to practice it. So what I find is that, just like you said, we all know it takes what, 30, 60, 90 days to change your behavior, that you have to keep on repeating that new behavior. And so I continue to guide them along, as well as, and this is not uncommon, new stuff shows up.
Yeah.
They get back home and they're in conflict again, and they've tried, the repair process that I've taught them, but they need a little coaching because, it's hard. It takes a while to learn some of that and feel comfortable with it and be objective enough to be able to do it.
It's a
Right.
new skill. It's a new skill. It takes
Totally.
21 days to create a habit, 90 days to create a lifestyle change. So yeah, it's not something that's going to happen overnight. And of course you're going to slide back. That sliding back, it's almost like, remember Candyland? Did you play
I
Candyland?
did play Candyland.
Loved Candyland. Candyland was sliding back sometimes, and I was like,
Yes.
that's a really good example of what we do in life. So you have the option of taking the slide back, or you have the option of working through it. And with you can help them work through it. It's real important, those tools. And you're right. You're given a new tool and it's new and fresh and spanky, but then it gets applied in a different way. And you're
Right.
like, wait, ruh-roh, how do I do this? No, no, use the same tool. Go back to this tool or that tool. Let me just shift for a second because Mama loves to shift. What parallels do you really see between how women approach money and how they approach intimacy?
Yeah, I think they're very similar in a lot of ways, right? I think one of the issues that women just face in general, and I'm sure you've seen that, is like the I'm not enough, kind of
Yeah.
messaging that we have. I'm not good enough, right? And I find that is there's a very big parallel there, right? Like I'm not good enough to be able to ask for what I want, right? I'm not worthy enough to be able to, in business, to be able to raise my prices and come off of an hourly pricing to let's say a coaching package, right? Like I find that a lot of women just feel like we have that worth issue, self-worth wound. And I think that shows up in intimacy as well, of not feeling like you can ask for what you want from your partner for fear that you're going to turn them off, you're going to take too much time, you're going to feel too needy, right? That's, I think, another very, very big parallel that we have between how we handle money and how we handle intimacy. And it's a problem
Yeah,
for
yeah.
women, right? That we
I,
can overcome.
anything you can
Everything.
jump any hurdle as long as you have the right tools in order to do it, but it
Yeah.
starts from awareness. You got to be aware that it is a hurdle, and you have
Yeah.
to be aware of what it is that you're doing and what the thoughts that you're thinking that's in that moment, like why am I thinking those thoughts that way.
Right.
So yeah, no, I understand that slide that you can go in when you're in a relationship, and listen, let's be honest, any relationship, it doesn't matter what relationship it is, it requires work. It could be a business professional relationship, it could be a friend relationship, it could be an intimate relationship, but the intimacy brings a whole another level of vulnerability and allowing yourself that vulnerability without taking things personal.
Yeah.
And it's that communication power that I think is really important in these kind of situations, and I'm sure you would agree with that. So how you talk often about, and I don't think we talked about it today, but I know in speaking to you, power, pleasure, and prosperity.
Mhm.
Let's talk about that. Can you break that down and what it means in actual practice? Power, pleasure,
Pleasure and
prosperity.
prosperity. Well, I think, I believe that all of this, Lori Ann, stems from really tapping into our feminine energy and our feminine power, right? And for me, and I think for everybody, our feminine power really lies in like our sacred womb,
Yeah.
right? Like I like to say that, our womb space is the center of our creativity and our power. And when we have blocks around that, when we're not connected to our feminine energy, however we get there, whether it's through sexuality, which, in my view is a very powerful way to get into your feminine energy, but there are other ways for sure as well. But when we're not connected to that part and we're blocked in that part, it has an impact on every part of our life, especially on our business
Yeah.
and our ability to bring in, to manifest what we want to bring in, because that energy, that womb energy, that sexual energy is so strong, it's so potent, right? It is next to nuclear power, right? It's one of the strongest, maybe the strongest energy in the world, because
Yeah.
it actually creates new people. Right?
Yes. True. True.
Right. And it's a
Yeah.
very, very potent energy. And when we can actually connect to it and then feel it in our body and use it and feel the strength of our feminine, that is a very powerful place to be. And that will completely shift. I mean, for me, it shifted my entire life, right? Like I was a lawyer and I was, successful enough in my business, but when I was able to actually like connect to my feminine and sexual energy, my entire life changed, right?
Sure.
And
Yeah.
that's what's possible when we're able to find and connect with that feminine energy. And
And
that is also the money, right? Money is also energy. I love
yeah,
that, right?
money
Money,
is energy.
money
Yeah.
is energy,
Yeah.
right? And we have to like stop thinking about money as being this like finite thing, as opposed to the energy of money that can come and go.
Right.
And when we lose some of the fear around it, like the fear around sex, then there's a huge opening for us.
Yeah. It's if you change it to exchange, I think it's
Mm-hmm.
more accurate
That's right.
depiction of both intimacy and
Yes,
money is that it's an exchange. And when you
that's right.
feel that, when you look at it that way, it takes some of these different ominous blueprints away. So I know I work with a lot of coaches helping them build their business, and we talk about valuation, and it's about the exchange. It's like it's not just that moment. You're bringing all this experience with you, and the same in a relationship. You're bringing everything that you've experienced in life with you, so of course some things are going to bubble up. And that's where your tools come in to help them recognize it so then they can use other tools. I'm an experiential teacher as well. I think when we experience it, we remember it better and we can access it quicker. as
Yeah.
opposed to I'm not prolifically a talking head, although I can be. But I don't like talking heads. I prefer to have people experience things so that they do it. And I presume that's why you do the retreats, finding that, major success in your clients in doing this for the last, what do you say, 5 years?
Well, I've been doing this work for 15 years. So I've been coaching for 15 years.
Right.
But I've been doing
Retreats.
these retreats for 5 years, 5, 6 years.
Yeah.
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 That's amazing.
Yeah.
In your experience, what role does embodiment play in financial empowerment? Because I know finances get between relationships really easily.
Great question. So I would say that um, I think it goes back to what I just said, like to be able to embody your truth, right? And embody your desires and embody what your worth is and how that shows up in your body, in the way you hold yourself, in the way you talk about yourself, in the way you feel inside of yourself, either like a sense of emptiness or a sense of abundance and expansion. And yes, I 100% agree that money and sex are the two things, right, that can really cause a lot of friction in a relationship. And they're hard to talk about. I think for many couples, money is just as challenging and shameful to talk about as sex is to talk about. But, if you can have an embodied sense of self, really is what I'm talking about, an embodied sense of self, then you can feel the power and the calm and the expansion inside of you to be able to have some challenging conversations with
Yeah.
your partner about issues that are, look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I mean, it's right on the bottom of that hierarchy, right? Like money is about security, money is about safety, money goes to your first chakra.
Yes.
Right?
100%, 100%.
Yes.
And having those, it's a really strong um, feeling that you have, and
Yeah.
really we need to learn how to communicate about this. And again, we are not taught how to do any of these things.
No.
So
No.
we're doing it basically, with blindfolds on and feeling our way through and hoping that we do it okay. Whereas that you don't have to anymore because someone like you exists and you're going to walk them through and have the book Sex and Intimacy Repair Kit. I think the Sex and Intimacy Repair Kit is brilliant to be able to be a starting point, a jumping off point to empower people to just understand the concept. And then taking the steps to do that from that point. So I just think that's totally brilliant. By the way, it's available for pre-purchase on Amazon. So click the link and follow it and pre-purchase that. But I'm loving this conversation. So what advice would you give women who feel confident in business, but
Mm.
disconnected from like her body, her intimate life, money, and feeling that discourse, not even clear as what it is? What advice would you give?
Advice that I would give is to really, I think the best thing that you can do is really to start some sort of embodiment practice, right? Like really understanding what it feels like to be in your body, whether it's through breath work or some sort of somatic work. Because here's the thing, right? Like our body has all of the answers. And not only does it have all of the answers around our sex life, it has all of the answers around our business as well. And I think that, that's why the embodiment piece is so important to me and powerful, because that's where our intuition lies.
Yes.
And as much as we need to be in our brain and like, having a sharp pencil, etc., we also need to really listen to our intuition, because women's intuition in particular is very potent and very, very powerful. And I know my experience has been, and probably yours as well, like when I listened to my intuition, things started flowing. And when
Yeah.
I stopped listening to my intuition, things were kind of choppy and challenging.
Yeah, that's when I called it round pegging, square holding because I wanted to look a certain way, but my intuition knew, and I wasn't listening. And I'm pointing to my chest because that's where I feel our intuition is in our heart. And
Yeah.
when we're not in our heart and we're in our brains have a lot of other things that get in the way for self-survival. It's there for a purpose, and so we want to stay in our heart and follow that intuition. I love the breath work. I love getting embodied and all that you're saying because so true when you understand who you are and you're comfortable in your own skin, everything else is easy to navigate. But when
Mhm.
you're trying to appease other people or become what you think they want you to be, you're going to feel discourse. You're going to feel uncomfortable. You're going to be in the icky feelings. You're not going to be in the joyous feelings. And that's when you know you're not in the right place. And I think that's an important thing. We speak this funny woo-woo-y language when we talk about embodiment, but the way you explained it was perfect because it's really getting in touch with yourself and paying attention. Yeah, it's those thoughts where it's like, oh, should I take the rain, should I take the umbrella today even though it's sunny out? And your intuition says, why am I even having this conversation? No, it's sunny out. Or your intuition says, yes, take the umbrella. And you're like, why? It's sunny out, right? Later, I wish I had taken the umbrella. That's where we're not paying attention. And those are little flags or signals saying, pay attention, pay attention, pay attention. You're right. When I'm coaching too, I'm like, you already know the answer, but if you want to walk through this, you just want to hear somebody else confirm it, and I won't do that. What
Mhm.
does your intuition say? What is it that you want to do? What are you feeling? Go back into your body. And that
Mhm.
tells us the same thing is when you're having that relationship, right? There's no
Totally.
shame to having a sexual relationship with your partner or with someone. There's no shame in that. We are sexual beings. I was told once that I ooze sexuality, and I was like, what does that even mean? I didn't even understand the concept of it. And she meant it as a compliment because I asked
Yeah.
her, I said, is that a compliment? She goes, oh, no, I mean it as a complete compliment. And I was like, okay. But at the time, I didn't understand what it meant. Now I do. And that
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
is a good thing. It means that I was, standing in who I am.
Yeah.
And it's the vibration of this, and I'm going to go to vibration conversation. The vibration, when you speak power, I speak vibration, same thing, is
Totally.
huge. And it becomes an attractant. It's like this unknown attractant, and then suddenly strangers are talking to you in the middle of nowhere. And my partner says that to me all the time. Why does everybody talk to you and like give you their life story? And I'm like, they just do. I don't know. So, but I like it and I think it's wonderful. So it's the
Yeah.
same thing with a relationship. You just need to allow that and unpack it and embrace it and not be shamed by it. I don't know why our society feels like shaming is a necessity. I understand why we try to keep people in an alignment type of a thing as a society from doing bad things, but this is not a bad thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we could have a long conversation around this, right? But
That'll be another one. Last few minutes, I just want to ask you, I'm a take action coach. For our listeners, what action can they take right now to kind of take steps towards what you're talking about, opening themselves up?
I think individually, one of the things that you can do to open yourself up is I'm a big fan of mindfulness. If you're not already doing a meditation practice, I like to talk about opening up all of your pleasure centers. So starting to get attuned to your pleasure centers, and by that I mean all five of your senses, right? And so I'll often suggest that, somebody goes out and looking out my window because it's so beautiful out right now with all the fall colors, right? But, go outside and really use all five of your senses to take in the smell of a leaf or a flower, the smell of a flower, the feel of a flower, maybe even the taste of a flower, right? Like the sounds that you hear in nature, because all those senses are part of our pleasure center. And when we open that up, we have so much more access to ourself and our body. That's a very somatic body-based experience. And we want to have more and more of those types of experiences.
Awesome. Amazing. Xanet Pailet, you are amazing. I want everybody to go outside once we're done. Go outside and go take an experience. Take it all in. Just take every moment in. It's beautiful out because it is fall, and the colors are vibrant. At least they are down here in South Carolina, North Carolina. They're
Yes.
gorgeous
Gorgeous.
now. I think we might have passed it in the Northeast, but it's okay. Go outside anyway. It's gorgeous out. Really enjoy life, and so we're looking to do that. Xanet, you are priceless. I'd love to have you back, especially when your book comes out. I want to talk more about your book. Amazing, amazing, amazing. Thank you so much. I'm so blessed to have you here today.
Thank you so much for having me. This was
Oh, my
lovely.
pleasure. Thank you all for joining us today on Healthy Lifestyle with Lorianne. I hope we've earned the privilege of your time. And I want to thank again our guest today, Xanet Pailet. All her links are down below in this episode. And look for us on our next show next Saturday at 3 p.m. on JVC Broadcasting and iHeartRadio. And we also can be found on all major platforms. And we would be so grateful if you please like, follow, share, subscribe, and comment. We love your comments. And take a moment for yourself. Go outside, breathe in that beautiful life. Reach out to Xanet at her website. Again, the link will be below. She has some yummy gifts there for you if you go. And until next time, I am Coach Lorianne, America's #1 Take Action Success Coach and Strategist. Let your dreams be bigger than your fears, and let your life be filled with joy. Until next time. Thank you again, Xanet.
Thank you so much.